السلام عليك السلام عليك الخليفة منك فينا.
The city of Egypt has always been synonymous with the existence of the Nile. This river has even existed since hundreds of millions of years ago and became the source of life for the Egyptian population. At the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the land of Egypt was under the rule of the Byzantine Empire, or the Eastern Roman Empire. Only when the Caliphate of Umar ibn Al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, Egypt was conquered and was under the rule of the Muslims. Who is Umar ibn Al-Khattab? How can a letter from Umar ibn Al-Khattab make the Nile River flow again? Watch this video until the end, so you get the answer. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share as support for this channel if you find it useful. Before Islam shone on the city of Egypt, every time Buna arrived, the Egyptians would perform an offering in honor of the Nile. The offering was made by sacrificing a girl to be thrown into the river. Egypt was conquered by Muslim troops under the leadership of Umar bin Ash radiallahu anhu on 1 Ramadan 21 Hijri or 641 AD, during the Caliphate of Umar bin Al-Khattab. Umar bin Al-Khattab was the second caliph who ruled from 634 to 644 AD. Umar was one of the main companions of the Prophet ﷺ and was classified as the Caliph of Khulafaur Rashidin, who was guided. Umar bin Al-Khattab is one of the 10 companions who are guaranteed to enter heaven. Among the companions, including the Zuhud friend. He took over the Islamic Caliphate after the death of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq on August 23, 634 AD, coinciding with the 22nd Jumadil Akhir 13H. Umar has a nickname given by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as Al Faruq, which means the person who can separate between truth and falsehood. During the reign of Umar bin Al-Khattab, the power of Islam grew very rapidly. Islam took over Mesopotamia and parts of Persia from the hands of the Sassanid dynasty of Persia, which ended the Sassanid Empire and took over Egypt, Palestine, Syria, North Africa and Armenia from the Roman Empire, Byzantium. At that time there were two superpowers, Persia and Rome. But both have been conquered by the Islamic Caliphate under the leadership of Umar bin Al-Khattab. Egypt was conquered by Muslim troops under the leadership of Umar bin Ash radiallahu anhu on the 1st of Ramadan 21 Hijriah or 641 AD. For the success of the conquest of Egypt, Caliph Umar bin Al-Khattab radiallahu anhu appointed Umar bin Ash as governor of Egypt and made Fustad city, Cairo, as the seat of government. During his tenure as governor of Egypt, Umar bin Ash experienced many events. One of them was when the Egyptians complained about the Nile River, which did not flow. Nile water is needed for irrigation of agriculture and the daily life of Egyptian people. Once when Umar bin Ash was visited by a group of residents around the Nile who complained to him about the condition of the Nile being dry. They said, "O Governor, the Nile is currently dry. The Nile River will not drain water unless we carry out the tradition that has always been done by our ancestors." They explained that according to the tradition of their ancestors, after 11 days had passed from the month of Buna, the people were looking for a girl to sacrifice. They would ask for the consent of this girl's parents to be dressed and given the most beautiful jewelry, after which they were then thrown into the Nile as an offering. If all that is done, usually the Nile will flow again. Umar bin Ash rejected the suggestion of the Egyptians and explained that the tradition was against the teachings of Islam. Islam has abolished such traditions. Umar bin Ash asked the people to refrain and not to continue the tradition. Buna passed, until the arrival of Abib, the 11th month according to the calculation of the Kubi and Masra calendar, but the Nile did not flow. The residents urged to carry out their traditions, until the governor was out of his mind forbidding and decided to send a letter to the Caliph Umar bin Al-Khattab radiallahu anhu in Medina. In his letter, Umar bin Ash explained about the state of the city of Egypt and the dryness of the Nile, as well as his decision to forbid residents from making offerings and this ancient tradition. Caliph Umar replied to a letter from Umar bin Ash and justified his actions to stop the polytheist habit. In addition, Umar bin Al-Khattab also wrote a special letter for the Nile and asked Umar bin Ash to throw the letter for the dry Nile. The contents of Umar's letter to the Nile are as follows. From Allah's servant, Umar ibn Al-Khattab, Amirul Mu'minin to the Egyptians of the Nile, Amma Badu. If you flow solely because of yourself, then don't flow. However, if it is Allah the One and the Most Mighty who drains you, then we ask Allah to drain you. Amr bin Ash threw the paper into the Nile according to a message from Caliph Umar. In the morning the Nile was filled with water to a depth of 16 cubits, overnight and continues to flow until now. The Nile River has become a river that never dries up even though the dry season hit. The Egyptians have also stopped and abandoned their tradition of offering to this day. The ancient traditions of Egyptian society that have been running for hundreds or even thousands of years have been destroyed by Umar bin Al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. How can a letter from Umar bin Al-Khattab make the Nile River flow again? Amr bin Ash has set the perfect example. As soon as he knew that the tradition meant by the Egyptians was the tradition of shirk, he immediately stopped it. Preventing shirk is the duty of every Muslim, especially leaders who have authority. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Whoever among you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand, authority. If he is unable, let him change it with his tongue. If he is unable, he should change it with his heart, and this is the weakest faith." Sahih Muslim. As Caliph, Umar bin Al-Khattab had an obligation to solve the problems of his people. The leader must provide a solution in accordance with the Islamic manhaj, does not conflict with Islamic Aqidah, does not conflict with Al-Quran and Sunnah. Umar bin Al-Khattab put his hope only in Allah. He prays only to Allah. It seeks to accomplish two things at once: stop polytheism by eradicating the sacrificial tradition, and promote the welfare of the people by flowing the Nile. Umar understood that the Nile and other rivers, mountains, forests, and the whole universe were God's creatures. So it is appropriate not to depend on other creatures. Umar only prayed to Allah, the creator of all creatures. Therefore, although the letter written by Umar bin Al-Khattab contains communication to the Nile, his prayer is only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such leaders are praised by Allah. And they are those who, if we give them authority in the land, establish prayer and give zakah and enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong, and to Allah belongs the outcome of all matters. Al-Quran 22:41. This also shows his closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With just a piece of paper containing communication to the Nile and a prayer to Allah, and then Allah made the Nile again flow. Sacrifice is a form of polytheism. Giving sacrifices or making sacrifices to other than Allah is one of the acts of shirk whose sins are so great that Allah will not forgive them. Preventing shirk is an obligation for every Muslim. As Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "The best leaders are those you love and love you, you pray for them and they pray for you. The worst leaders are those whom you hate and they hate you, you curse them and they curse you." Sahih Muslim. Thank you for watching this video, hopefully useful, and see you in the next video. If you have any questions, please comment, don't forget to like and share, subscribe for those who haven't. Wallahu alam bishawab.